This is Sean Connery introducing Comic Geek Speak, episode 107.
Welcome to Comic Geek Speak. I'm Brian Deemer.
I'm Shane Kelly.
I apologize for that intro, but I'm Jamie D.
I'm Peter Rios.
Hey, it's me.
Prove it.
You're a dick.
Okay.
I love that line.
And
that's one of Joss Whedon's few lines in that movie that actually
really?
survived. Yeah.
This episode of Comic Geek Speak is sponsored by Drawer Boxes, the best way to store your comic books. Their website is collectiondrawer.com, and on there you can see a whole bunch of examples of what the drawer boxes are and how they work, and you can see John Mayo's entire collection of comics, all 180 boxes worth, and they are very fantastic. I have all my comics stored in them, and now that I know what they are and what they're about, I couldn't imagine ever storing my comics in anything else.
I just calculated out about how many I'll need for my room if I ever can get my room organized.
How many is that?
About 30.
Oh boy, start saving.
Yeah, I know.
Take out that loan.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah. There are comics. You go on their website. Unfortunately, the boxes are very heavy, and so shipping is not inexpensive. But if you go on their website, they have started teaming up with some local comic shops as local distributors, and then you save on the shipping costs. So check them out, and it'll list if anyone within striking distance for you is carrying. I know some of our listeners have been getting them from their local shops, and they're loving it. So they only have to buy a couple at a time instead of ordering whole gobs of them at once.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah. So once again, collectiondrawer.com.
Mike, have you heard about those guys?
Yes, I have.
Do you have any?
Not yet.
Nope.
We're getting ready to move here pretty soon, and I'll probably be loading up once we get that taken care of.
Cool. On the phone with us is Mike Oliveri. Is that how you pronounce your name, Mike? I should have asked beforehand.
Yeah, Oliveri. We've gone by both.
And he is the writer of Werewolves, Call of the Wild, correct?
That's correct.
And that's from Moonstone, right?
Yes.
And as part of our indie challenge for February for book shipping in April, the four that we picked were Superior Showcase #1 from Ad House Books, Super Teentopia #1 from Alias, Horrorwood #1 from Ape Entertainment, and Werewolves Call of the Wild from Moonstone. And that's on page 298 of this month's previews. So we brought Mike on to talk a little bit about his book.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. And thank you for posting some of the stuff on the forum and being a forum member. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I dig the show. It's fun hanging out in the forum.
Great. So you're the writer of Werewolves, correct? And your artist is... I did not write it down, oh no.
Joe Bucco.
There you go. What's the premise behind the book?
Basically, it's a crime story that happens to include some werewolves. In the opening scene, there's a murder where a sheriff kills a young couple. And the guy who was killed, his brother, Cole Tyler, is the hero of the story, and he basically comes to town, tries to find out what happened, has to, find his brother, who, of course, is dead, and then put together who did it, and, of course, in the end, he gets his revenge.
And this is I don't think I mentioned before, but mature themes, correct?
Yeah, it's labeled that way. Really, you're not going to see any more than like PG-13. There's no sexuality. There's a little bit of cussing and a little bit of blood. So it depends how you want to, how your values weigh all that.
Right. And what was your reasoning for doing this book? Where does it come from? Like your own personal enjoyment of it, or?
Yeah, I've been writing horror for a few years now, most of it in the small press. This is the first I've gotten into comics, though. And, I had the idea for the story, actually for the opening, for a good year and a half. And when I ran into Joe Gentile, the guy who runs Moonstone Books, I started chatting him up and asked if I could pitch him something. And he basically said, yeah, go ahead. And I put together a full script. The rest of the story grew out of it from there. And next thing we know, we were rolling along with the book.
Cool. And what was so neat about it was, especially the way you posted on the forum, you were so excited that it was in previews, and that had to be such a thrill as a publisher and a comic writer.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been reading comics for forever. I mean, since I was a kid. I started with G.I. Joe and Transformers, back in the '80s, and have collected, pretty much steadily since then. So finally to see something in a comic, it's a big thrill for me.
And
I was going to say, I remember when Z, the comic that I helped put together, was solicited in previews, and you talk about a thrill. That was awesome. Even though it was like this tiny little thing, no cover shot or anything, just the text. I was like, oh my god, that's me. I'm in previews. How cool is that? My name wasn't even in it because I was just the guy putting it together. But oh man, that was cool.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like it shows you made it.
Exactly.
It's like just bam, here it is. It's really out there. People are really going to be ordering it. It's just fun.
That's cool. Where are you going to be at? You said you're not going to be out in New York. You just came back from WonderCon, correct?
No, I haven't actually been out to any this year.
Oh, no?
Not yet, anyway. I'm going to be hitting Wizard World Chicago. That's local for me. And then I'm going to try to make Mid-Ohio, because I know my publisher goes out there. And then I'm going to try to make Baltimore, simply because I got a friend that lives out that way, and I can crash with him and get in there. Other than that, I'm hitting a couple small local sci-fi cons, Archon and Hypericon, both in the Midwest.
Cool. You're going to have to let us know where, because we're definitely going to Chicago, we're definitely going to Mid-Ohio, and we're definitely going back to Baltimore, so we're going to see you there.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
great.
Those are, Baltimore's local for us, basically, and Mid-Ohio sort of is, too. It's about 6, 7 hours away. Yeah.
I'll have to show up with some cigars for you guys, especially Brian there, the daddy-to-be. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, your world's going to change, man, let me tell you.
I can
got
attest
3
to that.
myself, but it's for the better. You'll enjoy it.
You say you have 3?
Yeah, well, my 3rd's on the way. I've got one due in May myself. So.
Oh, congratulations to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And how's the reaction been to the book? To
So far,
to the
pretty
previews
good.
and all that?
Not a whole lot of people have seen it. The publisher, he's behind it. He's thinking that we're going to do well with it. I've run it through some of my friends in the horror community. They all like what they've seen so far. So I think it's going to do well. It seems like we're going to do well with this first order, and from there, it's just a matter of bringing it home.
Now, why Moonstone, or what is Moonstone's philosophy, I guess, or why did they go for your book, or you went for them?
There was really no selection process for me because, I like I said, I happened to run into Joe. He owns a couple stores here in the Chicagoland area. So once I basically met him face to face, I said, "Hey, let me send you something."
Mm-hmm.
But as far as why they went ahead and picked me, they like to do a lot of horror books. They had a horror line, Moonstone Monsters. They do like Werewolves. They've had a Mummy issue, things like that. They also do Kolchak, the Night Stalker, the Phantom, and a few other horror titles, and some media titles. So they felt that the crime element and the werewolf element fit into what they already did, so it was just kind of a natural follow-on for them.
Cool.
In fact, they used to do the, what do they call it, the World of Darkness series. They did a lot of that back in the past, so we're hoping that this book will bring back a lot of the people that used to read their vampire and werewolf titles from World of Darkness back when they still had the license.
Right. Oh, we hear one of your kids coughing in the background, actually.
Yeah, that's my older. They're both sick, so.
Oh, jeez.
One of the
Fun times.
excitements of daddyhood.
Now, how does that translate to being, a father and then trying to get your books out, make sure they're on time and things like that?
When they were younger, when they were both little, so I think I'm going to be starting again in the summer, but when they were both little, it's tougher because, you got to help out the wife every so often.
Sure.
She obviously can't do it herself. So the last, I want to say, year or two has been pretty slow for me as far as what I've been doing on the prose side. But I've been really rolling along this past year, because their boys are at the point where they're more or less self-sufficient, and I'm able to sit down and crank out some more stuff. And the nice thing about the comic is the writing part has been done for a while, so most of it's been up to Joe just to carry it through with the artwork and get it finished and get it turned in. And the comics, I've found, actually, the scripting goes a lot faster because, you're not sweating every sentence like you are in prose fiction. You got to labor over the dialogue and the captions because that's what's going to appear on the page and that's what's going to carry your voice. But as far as the rest of the script, a lot of it is just telling the artist what you want to see on the page. So I found it a lot easier to crank that out. I want to say the 3 issues, Moonstone does 26-page story in each book. So I think my final script was 105 pages, maybe. And then I don't think I've ever written anything prose that fast. I think I turned it in about 2 weeks after I pitched it to Joe.
Wow.
So you can just burn through a script a lot easier.
It's got to be exciting seeing those pages come in, though.
Oh yeah. Joe's doing a great job. I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of credits behind him yet, but I think a lot of people are going to start picking him up because he's been getting a lot of good feedback off of it from what little samples we've thrown out there. He just did a story with Mike Straczynski from, I think, Newsarama.
Mm-hmm.
Did a story with them for an anthology, I believe it was. And but before that, he did one other graphic novel, and he did another short story, and then he was doing colors for Moonstone.
So what other titles without? I mean, I it's probably a wrong question to ask you because you probably don't want to do it. But if you had to pull in some readers, what could you compare this to? Like if they're a fan of so and so, they'll enjoy this, or a movie or TV or something like that.
That is kind of a tough call. I'd say if they like. Well, this doesn't have like the dialogue of things like Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, but those are the kind of things I like, and I for the crime angle, I kind of throw some of that B action movie kind of thing at it, where you have a guy comes into a small town and nobody trusts him, and everybody thinks he's the bad guy. And then, of course, on the other side of it, you got your werewolves and your horror side. So I'd like to think it'll appeal to people on both sides. Maybe it fits into if somebody's a big Vertigo fan,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that'll be a good description of something along that line.
Cool. Great.
All
Any
right.
last minute things you want to throw out there? Oh, we're finally.
No, I mean that's about it. I appreciate it, guys. I mean, I'm a big fan of the show, so it's cool to be on here, and I appreciate the push you're giving me here. So thanks a lot.
No problem. We throughout this whole interview, we were trying to pull up some of the pictures, and we actually got them up now. That looks cool. We're looking at this one sequence where somebody's firing a gun, and
It's the first 4 pages.
first 4 pages. Okay.
Yeah,
That's the opening with the killing there.
the artwork looks
Yeah,
really
art
nice.
is really nice. Colors are vibrant.
Yeah, he's done a great job, and he's been great to work with. Like I said, I think he's going to be doing a lot more in the future. I'll have to see how long I can hang on to him.
Yeah.
Actually, what I like is the panel layouts is very simple, very
Yeah.
movie storyboardish, and I'm sure it probably goes somewhere later, but as a setup, first 4 pages, that's very clean.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, he keeps it simple.
That's great.
I like
great.
he's clean and sharp. He doesn't do a lot of the noise like some of the other digital art we see these days. With it's all jagged or fuzzed out looking. I like the clean art that he's got going there.
That's great. You got hooked up
yeah.
with good artists. Yeah, good. Well, continue to post on the forum, and we look forward to getting that issue in April.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, will do. Thanks a lot, guys.
Hey, Mike, do you have
Yeah.
a few minutes to stick around?
Sure.
Because we're gonna respond to some emails and some forum discussion that we've gotten, and I thought your insight might be beneficial to this discussion.
Okay.
A couple episodes ago, we were discussing previews, and I think Peter Shane and I said, I can't understand how anybody knows what to read if they don't buy previews. And
Right.
some people, and I'm sure you might have seen this thread in the forum, well, some people responded saying, well, we look it up on the internet, or, various websites list everything that's in previews, sans the descriptions and everything, but still a simple list of the books is there.
Right.
Well, okay, so that was the simple answer to the question: how do you know what to buy if you don't have previews? But then we got into more rich discussion about is going into the comic shop, and some people said, "Well, I'm not ordering anything that I don't see in hand, or I just go and grab the stuff off the shelf, or whatever." So now, and this, I'm addressing the room here because I know we all have some opinions on this, and my gut says, look, when you look at previews, there are, I don't know how 200, 300 pages of independent comics, and no, there's not a single comic shop in the entire country. I don't even think Midtown Comics in Manhattan gets at least one copy of every single independent book solicited in that previews. And even if they get one copy, unless you're there Wednesday at 10 a.m. when they open, chances are that you're going to see all those is nil because someone's going to come in and buy at least some of those issues that they only got one copy of. So you're not going to be able to see every comic. So if you didn't buy previews, you will never know that some of these comics were ever published. And it might be the comic that becomes your favorite because it might be written just for you, but you will have no idea that it even exists if you don't read it in previews or somewhere else. I mean, seeing it listed on the Diamonds coming out this week, what does that tell you? That tells you nothing. That doesn't even tell you, you don't have a description. You just have a so if you saw the name of your comic, Mike, well, how would we even know what the hell it was about if I just saw the name on a list? And it's too late. I can't order it. If my local comic shop's not getting it, I can't buy it. What online retailer is going to have one copy of some obscure independent book laying around? They're not going to have it. You can't get it. So I guess what I wanted to ask you is, I know it's early on in the stages of this project, but I mean, if people didn't order your book from previews, how would you even begin to sell your book?
Well, there's a lot to that. But basically, I'm happy that I have a lot of the experience on the prose side that I do because I'm used to having to push my book. If you think about a bookstore, like a regular mass market paperback, like a Barnes & Noble, say, you kind of have the same problem where, as big as those stores are, they don't stock everything either, especially the small press guys. So most authors are on their own to push their books. They'll do signings, they'll do their own advertising, whatever they got to do. The nice thing about comics is there is the previews guide, and there are people who will go out there and buy it and collect it, and they'll go through every page. Now, on the other side of that is, there was one summer where I went ahead and told them to throw previews in my box. But the problem was I started ordering too much stuff, and I was like, wow, I just can't afford this. So I had to stop. And as I got to thinking about this title, I know there's a lot of people like me that don't push it. Don't pick it up. And I've seen the same thing. Well, I'll be up in Amazing Fantasy up there, and Joe will ask people, hey, you want previews? You want previews? I want previews. And most people turn it down. So I know I can't rely on previews. And so, that's pretty much why I've got the website, and to be honest, trying to get on the things like here and on Pot of Horror, other forums, wherever I can go to get the word out, I try to do that. Sure. Sometimes it'll be just a quick hit, throw something out there. Other time, you're hanging out and people start doing word of mouth. I mean, that's one of the best ways, but it's really up to the author to do it himself. I mean, Moonstone, of course, they put a push behind it. Joe will mention it here and there. He puts retailer incentives. So I think, like, for example, with Call of the Wild #1, if a retailer orders 4 copies, they get a free copy of Buckaroo Banzai #1. So he's going to do what he can, but, he can only go so far. So the writers really need to get out there and just pimp their book as hard as they can. Now,
to be listed in previews, was there any kind of fee or anything associated with getting your solicitation in there?
I don't believe so. I was chatting Joe up about that, and he says it's you can buy advertising,
right?
And I think you can buy premium space, but I think for the most part, as long as your book will do well, they'll carry it. So, Moonstone does sell quite a bit through Diamond, so Diamond goes ahead and stocks their stuff, and they get some covers on there.
Because I was trying to think back to when I had my stuff in previews, and I think there might have been like a $25 or $50 charge for them putting the layout into their adding your solicitation into layout or something like that. I mean, it was minimal, but you still had to pay back then. I guess that's changed.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I do know, like one thing we did is Diamond has traveling reps, and we went ahead and sent them samples so these guys can go into the stores and show it off. Because my understanding is if Diamond sells a lot of copies, then we both make money.
Sure, exactly.
So I think the more you help Diamond, the more they're willing to carry your stuff.
Well, and I think, it's one thing that, because a lot of people, and we've criticized Diamond in the past as well as being this, evil entity that's, screwing companies and creators by the percentages that they make them, the cut that they take and everything. But, the sad part is that if Diamond didn't carry your book, you could pretty much just be like, well, how the hell am I going to sell my book? You'd have to go to every convention, you'd have to be on every message board, and you would have to quit your day job and just do this all day long just in hopes of selling, 3,000 to 5,000 copies of your book.
Exactly. And you're looking at a return of, as the writer, maybe a couple $100. So you spend $1,000, to fly across, say, fly to San Diego.
Exactly.
And you get your hotel room, but how much realistically are you going to get back?
So, it becomes important, the role that Diamond plays, and I don't know, I just found the whole, I'm not saying that, you're not a comic fan if you don't buy previews. I'm just saying I think some people might overlook that it is very important, and independent publishers are hoping and praying that everyone's reading previews and that they're looking at their books, and they're not just saying, I think I want to pick that up when my store gets it. They're hoping that they turn the order form in previews into their retailer and say, please order me a copy of this book and this book and this book, because that's a guaranteed sale for them, which makes them money. Picking it up on the shelf isn't enough.
Well, you can also, I don't want this to come across as that we're, like Brian said, we're not saying that if you don't read previews, you're not a comic fan. But there's also the retailer as well. If they want to sell books, maybe it's a little bit of their job also to say, hey, instead of having... Because most retailers, when you go in, they say, do you want a pull list here? What titles do you want? But I can't say that Lem ever put a previews in my hand to do that. You know what I mean? There was a time that if you wanted special orders, you had to pay ahead of time and stuff like that. But it was really up to me to kind of do it on my own.
For a long time, though, you got previews free with your
that's what I was
with
say.
your subscription.
But this is even probably maybe even before that. Maybe their previews was. When I was younger, I never got previews.
Oh, I don't know.
I
always did when I was.
I think that might have been a '90s thing.
No, well, it was what he did for a while was, as long as you place an order in previews, as long as you returned a previews order to him, he would give you previews for free. You'd buy the first one, and as long as you kept putting an order in and you kept helping him out that way, he thought his little bit he could give back to you was give you a free copy of previews, as long as you just kept perpetuating the cycle.
So see, what I'm talking about is just that pull list sheet that he has, not a previews order form. Remember that he has that.
Right.
So if a retailer has that simple pull list, maybe that's another reason why people don't know about previews. Because all they're doing is writing their titles down. So maybe a retailer, if they want to push the stuff that's coming out, does something like what Lem does, give a free copy out, So maybe there's also that. Maybe it needs to also come from the retailer as well. If they're really supportive about, because this is their business. They want to sell Marvel DC, but they also want to sell their independents, because you can have a long relationship with a lot of your customers on Dark Horse and Vertigo and Moonstone and IDW and so on and so forth. So, It's
I think it becomes a trade-off. You've got they know which customers are going to come in there and order a lot of stuff and spend a lot of money. So I think giving them, previews is $450. I think, so you give them that, and they're going to turn around and maybe order some collectible things that have this high margin. They'll make that $450 right back. Because I've seen stores that do give it out, and I've seen other stores that they charge. So,
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's a matter of the retailer.
We pay from DCBS. They charge a $1.12, which is, I will gladly pay $1.12 for that gigantic tome of comic-y goodness. I mean, it's just like, it's a pleasure. I mean, I've always said, I mean, that's the first thing I look at when I get my box of comics is the previews.
Yep, and $1.12, man, that's super. That's beyond reasonable. That's exceptional.
And I guess some people have said, well, why would I want to pay for a catalog? As a kid, I never paid for the Sears toy catalog for Christmas, and yeah, that's true. You don't pay for catalogs, but I don't know. And maybe it's Diamond being greedy and wanting another $4.50 or whatever, and I don't know. I mean, I know that it's a massive book. It's got to be expensive. The print cost it can't be cheap, and they're heavy, so shipping them costs a lot of money. So there is definitely cost involved in that. But it just seems like I never really thought about paying for previews as a bad thing, because it's everything that's going to come out that month in one convenient location. I don't have to spend. People are talking on the forum about looking up on the internet. I'm like, I wouldn't even know where to start. I live and die by the internet. I couldn't imagine how many websites I would have to sift through to find descriptions of everything and the cover of every book and a list of all the toys and all the videos and all the T-shirts and everything. Where the hell would I go for that? Even just looking at Marvel's website sucks to find a list of what's coming out. I can't even understand. If I can't find information on Marvel.com, where the hell am I going to find about what's coming out for Marvel? I don't know. It's so convenient. And like I said, I cut pictures out of it and I save it. It's a reference tool, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I know you cut pictures and stuff out of yours and stuff.
Definitely.
Did I ever make you a frame with all pictures on? Because
No.
that's where I have to get on that.
No,
Because
I never did.
I made frames for all of the comic friends. Sometimes did you get one? God, I gotta get going on that. But that's what I did. I cut all the pictures out and glued them onto a frame from previews. So I always got my money out of that.
Yeah. It's just interesting. I just wanted to make all the rest of it is your opinion, whether it's worth having a catalog or not or whatever. But I think a lot of people overlook the effect on the small publisher and even the effect on the large publisher with some of the lesser known books. Picking it up on the shelf isn't as good as pre-ordering that title, because that's a guaranteed sale, and that helps the retailer make an informed decision about how many copies to order. A retailer might say, oh, this independent book, no one's going to want that. But if suddenly 10 people turn in a previews and say, I want that issue, he might go, wow, 10 people are ordering it. Maybe I'll order 12 copies because maybe there's something to this. But if you didn't put it on your previews, there wouldn't even be one copy at the store.
And that's exactly what Lem would do. He would look at certain people and be able to use them as a gauge on how many he could sell. I know I was one of those people that he would use when I would turn in my previews. And because I could see what I ordered, and if I ordered certain independents that he knew, then suddenly there'd be one or two at least for the shelf. Right. And so they definitely your local retailer is definitely using previews and stuff you order in previews to supplement what he is going to order. And just like Brian said at the beginning, there's no retailer anywhere that can order everything or has the foresight to think, hey, well, maybe Joe Smith wants Call of the Wild, but since nobody else has ordered it, I'm not going to take a chance. I'll order those 2 extra copies of Marvel whatever that I know we're going to sell rather than take a chance on this book. Whereas if Joe Smith had put that Call of the Wild order in, he may have, that may have been the retailer ordering 5 copies for the shelf. So...
Well, so if you use previews, if you don't use previews, at least order Call of the Wild. Put it on your pull list, put it on your previews list, get it on your online site. That's really what the whole point of the Indie Challenge is. Yeah. It's not just to pick it up on the Wednesday that it comes out. It's to help these guys out because they're doing some really good work. Yeah. And their heart's behind it. That's if anything I can hear from Mike and Dave, Citizen Dave on the forum, and all these self-publishers and, Steve Bryant, Athena Voltaire, they want these books to succeed.
Absolutely. Even someone, Steve's working with Speakeasy, and everybody knows their name, but doesn't mean everybody's going to stock them.
Right.
Especially a new title.
Yeah, it's tough nowadays.
You're competing for a lot of market share. So
yeah,
right.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Mike, and we wish you all the best with your book.
Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it.
Cool.
Okay.
We'll see you on the forum.
Yep.
Yep.
See you there.
Have a
care.
good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
What's that website you have up
That's
there?
the Moonstone's website that has Call of the Wild on it. I like the cover has like an old tagline, now in color type format. It's
Oh,
really
yeah.
funny.
What's the URL on that? Is there a main one?
It is moonstonebooks.com/call.asp.
Okay. Check it out.
And then there is also listed on that page, although it seems to be down at the moment, but www.cotwcomic.com. Callofthewildcomic.com.
Cool.
That's their own website.
Very good.
Yeah, I love werewolves and vampires and stuff, so I'll be checking it out.
Yeah.
Well, based on that artwork, I mean, that's the thing. I don't mean to judge a book by its cover, but I mean that's what happens a lot of times with independent books. Is you look at it and you go, boy, this might be the greatest story in the world, but boy, this artist needs a few more years of fine tuning his craft. But then you see a book like this and you go, well, that guy has got it down, so it's I won't hesitate to buy that issue now. And that's the same thing I felt with Athena Voltaire. I looked at it and went, okay, I don't even care what the story is. Look at this artwork. It's beautiful. So,
Did you read a little blurb on the premise, like an actual press blurb?
Read it. What's the thing?
If you're going to kill a man, you best make sure his brother won't come looking for you, especially if that man's brother is a werewolf. Cole Tyler fears the worst when he learns his missing brother is the subject of a murder investigation by a hostile sheriff, Sheriff Hess. Meanwhile, wants to know why Marcus Rice so badly wants Cole to join his brother in a shallow grave. That's a little thing on their website.
Sounds cool.
By Bram Stoker, award-winning author of The Deadliest of Species and illustrator of Every Man Be the People.
Yeah, and I have to apologize for not knowing. I left all that information at home.
Well,
I
and-
write it all down, and then I'm like, oh man, I don't
some
have
producer
any of
you
it.
are, I tell
I'm
you
sorry.
what.
When it's just by circumstance, I brought my laptop. I love it.
Yeah.
It's really come in handy.
Cool. Well, I was glad to talk about previews because we were just kind of talking, and then all of a sudden, there's this 4-page thread in the forum, and
It's like
Oh,
more than
yeah.
that.
and I've gotten lots of emails, 6 or 7 or 10 emails, like, oh man, okay, we got to talk about this again.
I guess because they took it that we meant if you're not getting previews, almost like it was like, how dare you not get previews? But
Like
that's
a slap
that's
in the
not-
face.
Yeah, that's not what we were saying. I mean, obviously
No,
there
we're-
are other ways to order and do that stuff. So
We
understand that.
I've never known not having previews.
Right,
I mean, I
that's-
don't know
that's
what
exactly-
it's like not
that's
to look
exactly-
at
That's when I
previews
was
ever.
because I was thinking. I mean, since I first started going to Golden Eagle, I was getting previews. Period. And now it's just, it's a total part. I wouldn't know what I would completely spaz out if I didn't have previews. It would just be like I can't order anything because I don't know what to do. you know?
Well, and I grew up in Pottstown, and the 3 comic stores, because they all started at one, and then as each owner sold it, each new owner kept the same deal where you got previews with your order if you were a subscriber.
Yeah.
So I
Well, and it was
20
only like
years.
$1 way back
Yeah,
then, so
yeah.
it was easy to throw in. Or for a while, it was free right in the cover. Didn't it even say free? And then eventually it went up to like 75 cents,
Yeah,
and
I
it was
think
like,
I think it
wow,
was free originally, and then I guess with the
printing costs.
printing costs and all that. I mean, I used to get previews when it was like a little almost pamphlet
Yeah.
size book where it was just like Marvel, DC, maybe a little Dark Horse, a couple independents, and then that was it. And I've been like you said, as soon as I saw it for the very first time, and it's probably in 86, 87, I was like, put it on my list. I want to know. I used to, and this will take some people back. If Kevin was here, I know he would remember it. Amazing Heroes magazine used to have a preview issue, which was they were like an interview magazine, and their preview issue was always like a big square-bound 500-page. But what it would do, and at the time there was nothing else because there was no internet. There was no. It would give you what would happen in the next year on all the titles. It would tell you, storylines, all this kind of stuff, and I love that stuff. I love previews. I love being in the know and having that little bit of an edge. And so when I saw the previews come out, it was just like the next step from that Amazing Heroes magazine. And there's never been a month gone by that I haven't looked at previews.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. This episode, we're going to return to our spotlights. And we put a post on the forum, and we said, which Marvel team do we want to do next? Do you guys want to hear about next? And overwhelmingly, they picked, well, not overwhelmingly, but they picked Fantastic Four. So today's spotlight is going to be about Fantastic Four.
We're talking about the Heroes Reborn one, right?
Yeah.
I actually like that. I was going to bring it up. I actually like that. It was up until they brought in the Wildstorm characters that really, there's the last issue or two. But I like the concept of that. Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, let's go in some kind of order.
I'm going out of order.
That's like
let's forget about that Kirby Stan Lee guy and bring in the Jim Lee guy.
102 issues.
Fair. They're pikers.
So the legend, as it seems to have gone down through the many decades, it's like whisper down the alley, but I guess it's kind of true, is that publisher Martin Goodman was playing golf with DC's Jack Leibowitz, and Jack mentioned to him about the success of Justice League of America. And Goodman, as any smart publisher would do, went back to Stan Lee and said, maybe we should do a team book. And in his way of doing things his way, Stan Lee came up, wrote a 2-page, I think, a plot for the first issue of Fantastic Four, gave it over to his best artist at that time, Jack Kirby, and lo and behold, cover date of November 1961 was Fantastic Four #1. This is the first appearance of the Fantastic Four and the start of the modern Marvel age. Has anybody read that first issue?
Yes.
No. I just flipped through it. I was not too long ago or actually I should say today because that bored us because I knew we were going to do this, and I flipped through that first issue and you hear writers talk about either that was their first book or they were reading other comics and then they picked this up and they were like, wow, it was something totally different. And it's, you got to turn off a lot of your memory if you're a comics fan like now to look at that issue and go, really? That was groundbreaking? But it was. It really was. Mm-hmm. I mean, from dialogue to the art. And it wasn't even Kirby at his peak yet, but it still had so much to it.
Thud. The big omnibus. Thud.
I mean, it was, again, it was a family story. It was, you had these characters that were a family. It involved a space race, with Reed and all that kind of stuff. You're right, it is, I have all of the essentials, and I also bought the first Fantastic Four Masterworks, and that's the one I've read. I read the first Masterworks. Mm-hmm. And they're tough to plow through. There are some clunker issues.
It's of its age, definitely.
But you can see, and you can just feel that there was just something there that wasn't in anything else back then from what I'd read, and it's just he just connected. It was like Amazing Fantasy 15. It was just something that connected with that issue, and. It is off and on that one book that I will always go back to at Marvel. It's one of those books that, they've had great runs, and we'll mention them as we go up through the years. But it's just one that I'll go away from, and I'll miss it, and I'll come back, and I'll read it for a while like I'm reading it right now. And I know somewhere down the road, Straczynski's will piss me off, and I'll go away for a little while again, but then... something, just when I get out, they pull me back. Right. It's just something about that title. It's just the core of that title. The family, like we talked about in the Flash Spotlight, where they made the family so strong. That's what I love about this, because deep down, no matter when they were fighting, no matter who was a member, they bring in other members of the Fantastic Four. There was those core 4 characters that you cared about. And for whatever reason, I'm not sure. It's just one of those you can't explain. You just cared about those 4 characters. So that's what makes that book just so great to me.
I can see that because, they talk about when that first issue came out, it wasn't Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, and the Flash teaming up. All these individuals going. They started out as a team. Not even the Avengers can say that, The Avengers were all solo characters that came into a team. Mm-hmm. So here you have a super team, yes, but the thing that connects them, like Jamie said, is they are a family.
Well, the thing is, they were a family first. It wasn't like
Right.
they were superheroes who were a family. They were a family who,
Like the
by
Incredibles
an
or
accident,
something. Yeah.
became superheroes. And then that was part of, to me, that's always, part of the beauty of all the Marvel characters is they take the everyday person or the everyday character and they put them in extraordinary situations where they make them, Spider-Man gets bitten by the radioactive spider, they get bombarded with cosmic rays, Matt Murdock gets, stuff dumped on him. Anyway, it's the ordinary character put in extraordinary situations and then becoming, the inner hero bringing out the hero in that person.
Right.
And, just what you said, it's just the family first, then the superhero, and then on top of that, interesting superhero, interesting powers, interesting. The head guy wasn't the strong guy. The smart guy wasn't the strong guy. He was the pliable one.
Right.
The strong guy was, your basic test pilot, daredevil type. Not so much a daredevil, but he was more of a test pilot, aviator. Rough, tough.
Yeah.
The guy that you wanted to go out with a beer.
Right.
The hothead was the hothead of the group. He became the Human Torch.
And he was a teenager at that
Right.
time, right?
Yeah.
So that even...
Yeah, he was like, but he was a daredevil. He was more the daredevil type because he was the racing the hot rods and doing all that kind of stuff. And then they had the woman who was invisible because at that time in history, whatever, women weren't to the forefront as far as equal rights and all that kind of stuff. So I thought it was rather interesting. They made her the invisible one, where she didn't bring much to the group as far as, you had the smart guy, the strong guy, the daredevil guy, and then there's the girl.
Right.
And it really never made any sense to me why she went up in the rocket to begin with, but they had to put her in there for a reason. But still, the invisible girl, and of course they called her Girl until decades later when they finally made her the Invisible Woman. But just family. It goes back to family.
Have you read those? Have you started on your omnibus, Brian?
Not yet.
Not yet. As Jamie mentioned, there are masterworks of the Stan Lee and Kirby run. There's 9 of them. The Essential Fantastic Fours, the latest one is up to 4. And then there's the Fantastic Four Omnibus. And how much does that collect in there?
That's issues 1 through 30 in the first annual.
In the first annual.
And it's $100.
They did 102 issues and at least 6 annuals, I want to say, of the Lee and Kirby pairing. And they really are. I mean, when I was doing the research for it, because I haven't read much of this stuff at all, we've said it before that the Marvel Universe was basically created in those 102 issues, and it really is true. I mean, all the corners of the Marvel Universe that we talk about today are pretty much in this book.
I mean, you just got done. We just got done last episode talking to Andy
Schmidt.
Andy Schmidt about the whole cosmic thing. Well, you couldn't have that cosmic storyline without they introduced the Skrulls, they introduced Silver Surfer, they introduced Galactus,
Kree.
The Krees. It's just amazing the number of Black Panther, the Inhumans,
Wyatt Wingfoot. They brought back Prince Namor, the whole Atlantean culture. I have a list here, and it's so small.
With quite an interesting dynamic for him.
Yeah. For who?
Namor and Sue.
Yeah. Well, Stanley, he said he wanted to bring back the Human Torch, but he smartly said, maybe I should update him, instead of bringing back the original. But then I can see why he would bring back Namor, because why not? He's a great character. Why not bring it back? Talked about Galactus and Silver Surfer in 48. With Black Panther, you have Wakanda and Vibranium. With the Kree, you had Ronan the Accuser. Adam Warlock first appeared as him in issue 66. Blastar, the whole Negative Zone thing, which I'm not sure if they named. Did they name it back in this day, or it just was like another dimension at that point? I'm not sure if they named it then.
I'm pretty sure it was a Negative Zone.
Okay.
It's been that all along.
We said the Inhumans. The Impossible Man starred in issue 11. Puppet Master and Alicia Masters. Red Ghost, Ramatut, Diablo, Annihilus, Psycho Man, Molecule Man, The Watchers. Can't forget The Watchers. All this stuff happened in those. And, of course, obviously the biggie, Doctor Doom in issue 5. You can't forget about him.
Who? What?
So, I mean, it's, they always talk about, as far as a run goes, 102 consecutive issues, with that much creativity. You can have 100, I'm sure, there's talk nowadays about creators getting there, but to have that much foundation, wow, that's just amazing. It really is.
I mean, plus, add on to that the fact, again, we go back to family, they had a child in those 102 issues.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, you think about it, that's really almost unprecedented. Because I'm just right now in my mind going, okay, going through the DC pantheon and saying, okay, well, where's the superheroes with a child? I don't see any that are their own children. I mean, yeah, they kind of, in All-Star Squadron, they did the whole Infinity Inc. thing, but that was way after this. And even...
Yeah, there really is none. There really is
there's
none.
No.
Arsenal's the first one that came to my head, but that's so recent in comparison.
Yeah, he wasn't even really Green Arrow's son. I mean, he's adopted, or from.
But I mean, like Arsenal's.
Arsenal's own
son.
Leon. Oh, okay. Yeah.
On daughter too.
Daughter.
But there really is none.
So I mean, there was another groundbreaking, unprecedented thing that they did to keep the family going.
They got married. Reed and Sue got married, which was a big deal at that time.
Yeah. Because they were just going together in the early ones.
And some of the creators and some of the one of the back issues, they talk about the Fantastic Four, and they mention how you pick up one issue, and the Human Torch would quit, and the next issue he still wasn't there. And it was like this consecutive little story, just a little touch of continuity, but it was there from issue to issue, and that again was a new thing that was starting to feed into comics, the whole sense of continuity. And of course, at this time, it's very small and very underplayed, but it was there.
Yeah, because at that time, again, well, you're right, it was one and done issues. It was you look at like even the JLA, who they were supposed to be mimicking or comparing this to. Still, a lot of one and done issues. There are certain things might flow over into the next one that had happened, but it wasn't as closely tied. And to me, that was what, and has always been what I think the Marvel Universe is built on its continuity. That's one thing I loved about it up until maybe 10 years ago, when they decided continuity wasn't what they really needed. And that's a whole other story, and I'll get off on my soapbox right now. But to me, that's what built the Marvel Universe, is the fact that you had that, Johnny quit, the Reed and Sue went off to live their life, so they brought in Crystal and Luke Cage to be part of the Fantastic Four. Ben, for how many issues, at least I'd say 20 or 30, went off to be on his own, and they brought in the She-Hulk, which. Right. Yeah, a great run. There was, just trying to think of some of the other people. I mean, there's so many people. They say the Fantastic Four, but there have been many people that have been part of that team. That it just, again, building on continuity.
Shows the power of the group. Issue 3 was the first time they got costumes, and it was also the first comic to jump to 12 cents since comics' inception. They were always 10 cents, and then in 1961, they decided to jump it up into 12 cents, or maybe 62.
Highway robbery.
Because it was worth it.
Jeez.
Yeah. After Stan Lee and Kirby, there was a smattering of artists and writers, and I'm pretty much going by like what's been traded. The Perez artwork, there's 2 Visionaries coming out. The second one will be out in April 19th is what they say. In stores April 19th. The George Perez Visionaries. Not a high mark in probably the Fantastic Four's history, but definitely a high mark in, or I should say a stepping stone in Perez's own personal career.
That's like, a lot of people that have listened to this know that John Byrne's run is my favorite run on any comic book, period. It is. But the Perez run is like my second favorite run in this book. And there's so much that he did, and so many characters. I mean, that's a lot of the Negative Zone story where, at least I'm pretty sure, and if I'm wrong, please just don't shoot me. But there was a whole Negative Zone story, I'm pretty sure, where Reed got trapped in the Negative Zone, and I could be wrong on this. I think I am now that I'm really going into it. Anyway, there was. That's around the whole time that this was. There was a whole storyline where Reed was trapped in the Negative Zone. They didn't realize that there was an evil Reed as part of the group.
Oh, yeah.
They had Thundar, Impossible Man. I'm trying to think of a couple other. I think Black Goliath was there. There's a whole bunch of other characters that were all kind of like living in the Baxter Building. There was just Agatha Harkins was in. They brought her into it. They had the Zodiac.
Those Salem 7 characters.
The Salem 7, that's right. They were all like members of the Zodiac, like Aquarius, and all of those. So that's, while it may not be important in the overall run, it's still just some fun comics that I definitely highly recommend getting I have all the issues, but I'm also buying the Visionaries. So definitely buy the Visionaries.
He did 16 issues, 2 annuals, and 15 covers. He followed Rich Buckler, who Perez was an assistant of Buckler at the time, and Joe Sinnott was his most frequent inker. Perez worked under Roy Thomas, Len Wein, and a few other writers. From there, obviously, the next era, and probably, arguably, some people say the greatest era, if you don't count the Lee and Kirby stuff, was when Byrne took over with issue 232 in 1981. Well, I'll just hit a few highlights here and then we can talk about issue 284. He renamed Invisible Girl Invisible Woman. In 251 began the Into the Negative Zone storyline, and which is probably my favorite storyline of.
Well, and it gives us an addition to the Fantastic Four family.
Exactly, and. Fantastic Four 286.
I remembered something.
Jean Grey returns to the Marvel Universe. And Byrne's run is up to volume 5.
Yeah.
Up to issue 275. So they got about. Well, he didn't draw issue 300 or a few issues up to it, but I think a lot of what he planned still went up to issue 300. So
yeah.
So you could say they got about 25 more issues to go.
Jeez, 2 more volumes of that. Oh my God!
And they don't even. I don't have it. I know you have it over there, but I don't even believe that they got all of the stuff he's done, because there was a bit of a run before 232 from like.
He was just artist.
Yeah,
on it.
He was just artist on it. We skipped over 200, which is actually one of my favorite. I'd put in my top 20 favorite issues, single issues. It was just a great story. I believe it might have been Buscema artwork. I'd have to look at that. But it was Reed against Doctor Doom in an all-out, knockdown, drag-out fight. And I mean, when you're talking a fight, this was a double-sized issue, which was like 60 pages. And for half of Doom basically incapacitates the rest of the Fantastic Four, Thing, Invisible Woman, and Johnny Storm, and it's just he and Reed in like this castle in Latveria, I'm pretty sure, or it might have been the embassy, like the Latverian embassy. But it's just Reed having to go through this trap after trap after trap, and finally he just he just kind of like flips out at the end, takes down Doom, and it's just one of the greatest, to me, panels. Is there's just this one panel where Doom's mask is removed, and he sees his face in like this giant crystal thing.
All the facets and
and it's just it supposedly drives him crazy because he's so vain. That was back when they kept him like almost one-dimensional. He was so vain he couldn't take the fact of his scarred face, seeing it, so it basically broke his mind. And that was like the end. But it was just for me as a kid reading that for the first time when it came out, because I was reading the books back then when it came out. It was everything I wanted in a comic. It was just that one-on-one fight between two, the guys I cared about, and the good guy won, and the bad guy got his comeuppance, and a great issue. So if you can find it, I mean, it's not that expensive. It's only it's only like $4 or $5. Yeah. So if you see it anywhere, I highly recommend picking it up. It's just a great. It's also a standalone issue. You can almost there's stuff leading up to it in like 98, 99, but you can read 200 without having read any of the other two because Doom had his son who had like all the powers of the Fantastic Four, and they had beaten him. And that was the whole big thing where he was going to have his ultimate revenge, and just a great, great issue.
And one of the things that's funny about Byrne on Fantastic Four is everyone just assumes that his X-Men with Claremont was the thing that... Well, it was the thing that started, really pushed his career, but they just assumed that was a high seller, even through like Dark Phoenix Saga and stuff like that. And that's actually not correct. The sales on Uncanny X-Men were not actually all that wonderful, almost, and it wasn't until later after Byrne left that they started to pick up. Mm-hmm. But it was because Byrne and all that, and the excitement of Claremont and Byrne, that started to bring in interest, and then sales really started. Unfortunately, he left to go do Fantastic Four, but Fantastic Four was really the high. It sold phenomenally for him, mm-hmm. and it just picked up issue after issue after issue.
Well, it's no wonder,
right? Because I mean, he was. Here's a sole creator writing the book, and at that time, other than you think about Daredevil, Frank Miller on Daredevil, but that wasn't common. It wasn't common for one guy to do all of it, and so Byrne's era of the Fantastic Four definitely stands out as far as as a place. It has its place in history, and sales proved it, and the many fans.
I'm loving those visionaries. I can't remember if I read number 4 or not, because I have number 5 now, and I know I read at least the first 3 of them. I might have finished the 4th one too. I can't remember, but
this 5th one has like She-Hulk in it, and
no, I didn't. I know I didn't read the 5th one.
Okay,
I know that, but I can't remember if I read 4 or 3. But they're all so far. They've just been great. It's just great fun comics. Period. Awesome.
And again, where you talk about the Kirby Lee run adding stuff to the Marvel Universe, he also added a whole lot of stuff to the Marvel Universe that we still use today. I mean, he gave Galactus at least 2 or 3 different heralds through his entire run. I mean, Blastar was one of the heralds for not Blastar, Terrax. Yeah. Terrax the Terrible was one of the
that was
heralds.
During the Wolfman era. Wolfman actually started that.
Okay.
Yeah, and
but he got rid of Terrax, brought in Frankie Ray as
Nova
as a herald.
Just
to me, fleshed out Doctor Doom in a way no other writer has ever fleshed that character out. Took him from, to me, a one-dimensional character into a character that you almost rooted for.
Yeah.
He just was so interesting. I mean, I've always been drawn to the bad guys anyway. The bad guys are always more interesting than the heroes. They just are. And so to me, a good bad guy is always more interesting to read. And he just made Doctor Doom. If you read Fantastic Four number 4, and then you read 5, and then if you read just any of the ones, any of the individual issues that center around Doom that Byrne wrote, just the difference in character, you're almost like you're reading a whole different character. He gave him a backstory of a mother, and gave him a motivation as to why he was who he was, what happened. It was much more than the fact that Reed supposedly screwed around with his calculations, and it was Reed's fault that he got hurt. There was just so much more to that background. I mean, and it's not just the Doom. He explored so many other characters. He made Sue Richards a much more interesting character than she ever was. Gave her stuff to do.
Came up with the whole way to use her powers for transportation. The little ramps and things like that.
And made her just like we said in past episodes, to me the most powerful hero who hasn't been really tapped to use that power. She is just the stuff that she can do with her powers is just endless, and you haven't even tapped into half of what she can do. So, turned her into a great character. Took She-Hulk off of the slag heap really, and brought her into and made her a funny character rather than just a Hulk ripoff character.
Probably the only replacement character that, for me, is worth it.
Yeah.
You know, like, we know that Crystal and Power Man and, you know, I don't know, whoever else, but for all the other she's the one that, anytime she would come back, I think it would work on so many levels.
Mm-hmm.
There are trades of this, like we said, the Visionaries. I amassed a whole collection out of convention buys, out of no more than $1 each convention buys. Go ahead.
I looked it up at In Stock Trades, and the Visionaries Volume 1 is $12.99 with a cover price of $19.99. Second one $16.24. Third one is $16.24.
And they each have like 10 or so issues in them, so it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't do the whole back issue thing, you know, there they are.
Well, and especially that first one at $12.99. I mean,
that's really
$1.20
good.
an issue, and you don't have to dig around for them. It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
And that covers Fantastic Four 164 through 167, 170, 176 through 178, and 184 and 186.
That's a lot of issues.
Oh, so that is his non-writer stuff. That's just his art stuff then.
Who's Burns?
Let me see.
Are you talking about Perez?
I could be wrong on that.
Oh, are you looking at the Paris stuff?
I was looking just for Visionaries, and that's what came with Fantastic Four Visionaries Volume 1.
Oh, wait,
Yeah, that's the Perez
that's the
stuff.
Paris stuff. Yeah, because I have it right
Because
here.
Byrne was in the 200s.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it says George Perez right there.
Yeah, right under it's John Byrne Volume 2.
Well, that's weird because there's John Byrne Volume 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe that's
Maybe
sold
they're
out of
out
it.
of it.
Yeah.
Pretty sure the volume 1 starts with 232, though, is when he
Volume
was,
2 is 241 to 250.
So that's probably,
Yeah, so it'll be
that's right.
232.
I mean, you know, there are a lot of creators nowadays that look at that stuff, look at Byrne's X-Men and his Fantastic Four as inspiration for a lot of what they do, you know. So if you really want, if you want to see what, you know, the era that really made them and really kind of, you know, pushed Marvel into some quality writing, some quality, and into the numbers as far as sales are concerned. That was the one. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was going on in the Marvel Universe at that time that came out of either Fantastic Four or X-Men. So, I mean, that was such an important run in the history of things. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I started reading Fantastic Four, and it's lucky for me, is the Walt Simonson run.
It was not too far after this, right?
No, it was like 330. Oh, hang on. You son of a bitch. 334, I think. Yeah, 334 was Simonson's first FF. That was when he was just writing, and then like 3 issues later he was drawing too. And it just so happened that was exactly when I just said, hey, let me start reading Fantastic Four. It was 1990. And oh boy, that's a lucky run to walk into because that's what sold FF for me. Because Simonson's beautiful artwork and he's a hell of a storyteller as well, you know. So, and then it included the 2 issues drawn by Art Adams with the alternate Fantastic Four with Spider-Man, Hulk, Ghost Rider, and Wolverine, you know, and that was just fun because I mean, who can resist Art Adams? And so, I just got lucky with a good run right there.
It's definitely a team that you can't do like JLA or Avengers where you can just have a lineup shake up like that and it'll last for long. You know, it's cool to see it for a couple issues, but you pretty much always go back to the
And
original.
Simonson is known for a little fun and wackiness,
Yeah,
so you know that made perfect sense.
I don't know much about anything from Byrne until the Heroes Reborn stuff. I mean, there was not much to say about it, I don't think.
It was typical 90s stuff. Again, I would come and go. I'd try to keep up with it, and it never interested me that much. I mean, there was the stuff with
Ms. Marvel becoming the Thing.
Yeah, they did that a whole bunch of times, and Reed died, and then Doctor Doom died, and just a whole,
Mishmash.
Valeria, the little girl. I can never understand where she was, who she was exactly. Even now, I'm not 100% sure exactly who she is. If she's Doom's daughter, if she's, Reed and Sue's daughter.
Wait, I actually read that in the current Fantastic Four 2005 official handbook, Marvel Universe. I was going through, and the way they explain it is because I wanted to know that myself. Like, there's that Byrne issue where Sue loses her baby, and in this they say that Franklin went back in time and managed to save that child, sent her to live with Doom, like in Counter Earth or something like that, in a reality where Sue married Doom, but Doom was a hero in that reality, wasn't a villain. She raised. That's why she comes back with like the Doom armor as Marvel Girl and all that. And then where she went from there, like she de-aged and what.
I think my head just exploded.
Yeah, exactly. So you can look that up and
then Crisis happened, and then it was all changed. So
it's all wacky.
But while you were talking
universes.
about that, and you were just talking about that issue, one of the beautiful things about Byrne's run in that issue, where she loses the baby, is the fact that he goes and he takes Otto Octavius. And
Bruce Banner.
I can't think of his name now. It's the guy who's Morbius, a living vampire.
I think it's like Michael Morbius.
Yeah, Michael Morbius or something like that. But he takes them and uses them in their doctor roles to try to figure out why Sue what's happening to Sue at that time. She was getting sick, and they didn't understand what was going on. But again, to take from the Marvel Universe, to take characters you wouldn't think to use in that. At least I never saw it until I read the issue. I was like, oh, that's so cool, using Dr. Otto Octavius. Well, yeah, he's a doctor, and at that time it was one of, in between his being a bad guy and being a good guy roles, where he was trying to reform, so he kind of helped him out.
Right.
But to use those characters in ways that you wouldn't normally see is just one of the things that makes a run so much fun, and that's also what made the Jack Kirby Stan Lee run so much fun, is to introduce all of these characters and then just see somebody take them and reuse them.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Shane. Now we can talk about Heroes Reborn.
When I was just looking through, other than a couple sporadic issues here and there, I don't think I really started reading FF until Heroes Reborn, until Onslaught and Heroes Reborn. It's a book that I always wanted to like it, and a little bit in recent years, like Jamie said, I always get it whenever a new creative team gets on it. At some point along the way, I get disappointed and stop, but then something always draws me back, and I try it again, and I'm trying it again with JMS, and I like it so far, and I hope to, because I'd love to stay on it for a long time. But I really like that Heroes Reborn, that year that they were in that pocket universe.
Right. It was a whole thing where they got rid of Fantastic Four,
Captain
Iron
America,
Man, Avengers,
Iron Man.
Captain America, and they were going to farm it out to Awesome Studios, whatever Rob Liefeld's Extreme Studios or whatever.
Bah.
And the original idea of it was that it was totally going to be a whole new separate thing. They were going to revamp all these things, and that's how they were going to be for the rest of whatever.
Yeah.
About 4, 5, 6 issues into it, they went, okay.
Which is really funny that they did Ultimates of almost everything since then. I mean, Ultimates
I guess they
worked
learned
better.
Yeah, they learned what. But
for me, I didn't read the Rob Liefeld issues. I truly, honestly didn't. I didn't get any of them.
Don't feel bad.
No, I don't. But I read FF and Iron Man, and I loved them. And I wish they would have played in that universe a little bit more with that, because it was easy for me to jump on at that point, again, because it was new, and it was its own self-contained entity, so I didn't have to worry about all that. Kind of what everyone says about Ultimates universes now. And I really enjoyed it. I liked the story. I liked the premise.
Right.
I can't remember. Did Jim Lee write that along with drawing it?
Yeah.
I know he drew them. I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure. Let me see.
Yeah, I
I'm
can't
right
remember.
here.
It was different. Like, I think the problem was the change was too abrupt.
Uh-huh.
You know, one issue they were gone, the next issue, boom, we're back to issue 1.
Writers Brandon Choi and Jim Lee. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then he also drew it.
It just was too fast, too quick, and it was great. You know, I loved the artwork on it. You know, it was neat to see Jim Lee do it, and it just you kind of knew it wasn't going to stick.
Oh yeah.
That was new Coke for me. That was just, you knew once New Coke came out that Coke Classic was going to come back sometime around the road. I knew when they did this Heroes Reborn thing that they were going to return to the normal universe. Right. They just couldn't keep it there.
Yeah.
And they did. And I think there's one trade of that, at least for the first 6 issues. I don't know if they've ever collected all of it.
I don't know if they finished it or not. Well, and kind of, when they put out that issue 13, which had the Wildstorm universe characters, whatever it was, that I really kind of went, that's kind of stinky.
You knew by that time they were just fishing for ideas.
Just anything to garner up sales.
By then they knew it was going back.
Yeah,
so
I thought that was kind of silly. But I really did like that year-long story. I wish they would have done a little bit more, if it would have been more accepted.
Right.
I didn't mind it at all.
And those you can find in the back issue bin.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Cheap.
And then what was it the 30s? What was Jeff Loeb and Carlos Pacheco, or the 40s? What?
After when Heroes Return happened, Alan Davis was on artwork. Scott Lobdell was the writer. Claremont Lobdell got fired off of it, and then Claremont took over, and then eventually Pacheco took over with 35 volume.
God, those are good issues. Those are not only are they gorgeous, but they are fun, classic FF family stories again that are just, I mean, I don't know, there's like 10 or 12 issues, and man, you have to find those.
It's a little more. Flesh and Stone and Into the Breach are the 2 trades by them, and I think there's, because he went up to at least issue 50.
Oh, really? I didn't remember. Okay.
Well, that's 15, yeah.
And I have a page from one of those. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
That was one of those where it was sitting on the shelf, and I hadn't been reading it, and I picked it up, and I was like, wow. This looks really cool. I mean, and again, going back to what I call a halfway. No, you can't call 15 issues a run. But as soon as I saw the one image that really stuck out in my mind was when you saw them bring back the Baxter Building, which hadn't been there for a while.
Right.
And the way they did it was just so cool.
It was cosmic. It was Fantastic Four. It was,
I was like, oh, this is a Fantastic Four I've been missing for years. And then off and on, I've been reading it since.
The main criticism about the Claremont run was that it wasn't Fantastic Four centric. He brought in a lot of like Excalibur and X-Men villains, and I guess you write what you know. But when Pacheco, because I also jumped on with the Pacheco, and I know Kevin did as well, and you're right, it was beautiful artwork, and the stories, it kind of made me go, okay, yeah, I can dig this. I can dig these guys. I can dig this way that he's writing it, and throwing in little things here and there that are interesting. And they had the Pier 4. I'm just showing this one wizard.
The warehouse.
Yeah.
That's great.
It was. I think this was a Claremont invention, or maybe it was Scott Lobdell. I'm not sure, but they said, where does Reed go? Where does he put all the stuff? He puts it on a pier, And so it was kind of cool for a little while when they
came back.
Yeah, when Four Freedoms policy was gone, they got to go somewhere. And then after Pacheco, did Wade jump on right away?
What issue was it that Pacheco started on?
35. That's what my notes say. Wade jumped on with issue 60, and they also started their renumbering with 489, and it was only 9 cents, the world's cheapest comic magazine. It was kind of in an answer to Batman's 10 cents adventure, so they made a 9-cent comic. And the Wade run with Mike Wieringo has its own controversies, and he was fired, and Wieringo left in protest because of it, but then they were brought back. And the writer who was going to take over actually went on to go write Marvel Knights 4. It just was it was a bit of a shake-up, like I guess because of Bill Jemas and whatever. But then they finally turned around and went, you know what, that's a dumb move. And Quesada brought Wade back, which I thought was a smart move. And his run is all traded in Imaginauts, Unthinkable, Authoritative Action, Hereafter, Disassembled, and Rising Storm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 trades. Have we all read this? Did you read any of these?
Yeah.
I had the Pacheco ones, and I think I then got off it and started again with Wade, but I must have sold both of them because they're not in my database list here.
It's an interesting
I
run.
started reading the Wade stuff, and I
Yeah.
fizzled out. It just
it was-
wasn't
it was
what I
one of those
wanted to
things-
read.
I wanted to like it, and it just didn't do anything
Yeah,
for
it didn't
me.
suck me in, and I just went, I'm done.
Do you think it was the art, the mix of the art and the writing, or just the writing?
Partly the art,
For me, it was more the writing.
but I the story did not
Yeah.
appeal to me really at all. I just was bored, and so I went, I don't need to read a comic I'm bored by, and even if it is a Fantastic Four, so.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the artwork because I like Mike Waringo. It was a story. It just, even though this was like, he had said this was one of the teams he wanted to write, I don't know, it just wasn't weighted as best as far as I'm concerned. I know a lot of people out there love it. It's very well received, but for me, it just, I don't know.
Did you like the Unthinkable storyline with Doom and the whole magic thing?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I'll be honest with you, I didn't. It's just, I don't mind a little magic with him, but just over the top. Again, he didn't know what to do with him. He didn't have the feel for Doom that I think you need to have. He just didn't.
I did enjoy the authoritative action one where they actually went into Latveria and they said, you know what, we're going to take away everything that this sucker has because we're tired of him coming back and kicking our asses. I thought some of that was a little believable.
It was an interesting concept. Again, it harkened back to what Byrne did with them, taking away Latveria in the beginning from Doom and then bringing Doom back to Latveria. It just kind of smacked to that storyline, so I was kind of like, kind of read this one before, even though it was different enough that it wasn't, you couldn't say it was any kind of rip-off. I just kind of felt I'd already been there and I'd already seen this story.
And then, of course, we're in the J. Michael Straczynski era, and I personally didn't even pick it up.
Neither did I.
I was burned too much by Straczynski on Amazing Spider-Man that and Rising Stars and whatever else, and I said, I'm sorry. Because for me, I mean, the Fantastic Four, I just don't think for me it's a comic I want to read. That dynamic of a family, which I totally see and I understand. I don't know. I guess I'm not a Fantastic Four fan, I guess. So it wasn't enough for Straczynski to be on it. It even wasn't enough for Michael McCone to be on it. I was like, got to give me something a little more for to pick up this now.
No, I was in the same boat that you and Brian were, where I had no plans on picking it up at all, and then I read I think I picked up and looked at the first issue and read a little bit of it off the rack, and I ended up buying that issue and read it, and I liked it, and I have since gotten it, although I'm like 3 or 4 months behind on it. I have enjoyed it more than I thought I would be. Now it remains to be seen if it'll hold out, of course, because the way JMS did Spider-Man with me, but so far I've enjoyed it. It's different. I like what they're doing to the thing.
It's just that they gave the thing a little something to do.
Yeah.
I'm giving them enough time. I'm kind of giving them enough leeway. The one storyline they just did, it kind of ended up a little but with McCone on the artwork, it's enough to keep me. It really is. I love his artwork that much. And he got me to read Exiles, so that's telling you how much I loved his artwork.
How about it?
So I mean, I'll hang around for a little bit, and like I said, I know somewhere down the road he's going to piss me off, and I'm going to drop it again.
Yep.
And then another year will go by, and I'll pick it up. It's just one of those, it's like a bad love affair. You just
keep going back.
Keep going back.
Well, we should say that this is the 45th anniversary year of the Fantastic Four. Issue 500 was actually the return of foil-enhanced covers. It was the first one in a long time that it came back.
For shame. And,
of course, there's the whole Ultimate Fantastic Four and Marvel Knights 4. And there's movies and cartoons, and we've talked about the movie already. And
well, now in my search for Toy Fair things, I think there's a new animated series coming out too that I hadn't heard about. Because there's figures for it.
Cool.
That they have made up. But I don't know when it's supposed to premiere. I assume next fall.
So, I guess if the right writer and the right artist jump on the book, it seems like it's a book that people would pick up.
Yeah.
Definitely go seek out the Byrne run to find the second definitive run of the series, and if you have the money, check out the Masterworks, or just go for the Essentials for the Lee and Kirby stuff. I once said that, if I ever jump into the Essentials, that's probably the first place I'm going to go, since really that was the first Marvel Modern Age comic. It makes sense.
That's why I got the omnibus.
Yeah.
For $50.
It's worth it too because it's
31, and it's oversized.
Right.
31 issues of Fantastic Four for $50. Come on, if they were in a dollar bin, you'd buy them.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially those issues in a dollar bin.
Well, but you know what I mean. Even if they were beat up copies or whatever, you'd probably buy it for $1 anyway. Just because.
So there's so much to this, and I'm getting interrupted. So we'll return to it eventually.
I'm cutting you short, Peter.
You're long-winded.
I thought you were done. That's why.
I was wrapping.
Okay.
And in conclusion,
Well, now you're tied with a bow.
All right. This Stump the Rios is from Bob Braytal, JLA fan on the forum.
Okay.
Question number 1, DC. In JLA number 70, first series, in the story Versus the Creeper, written by Denny O'Neil, a villain tricks some aliens into attacking the Earth by telling them that the JLA is a band of evil dictators enslaving the Earth with their superpowers. Who is this bad guy? Who learns his lesson and who is the bad guy who learns his lesson and repents by the end of the issue?
Professor Ivo.
The Mind Grabber Kid.
so popular you've never heard of him.
No, he was in Primal Force actually. They brought him back.
Well, here, listen to this. The last panel has the caption, "Want to see more of the Mind Grabber Kid? Let us know because we sort of like him." Bob says, "I guess no one did because I don't remember ever seeing him again."
Yeah, he came back in Primal Force. Steven Seagal brought him back.
Question number 2, Marvel. In Avengers number 49 and 50, first series, the Assemblers face off against what relatively obscure villain with a past connection to one of their members?
Past connection to one of their members.
Can you read that one again? Because I was reading something.
Read it again?
In Avengers 49 and 50, first series, the Assemblers face off against what relatively obscure villain with a past connection to one of their members? Peter's sweating now.
Because I'm trying to think of different... Egghead.
Typhon, a titan of myth who had been exiled in the distant past from Olympus by Avengers member Hercules' father. Your cousin's uncle's sister's roommate.
Which makes us absolutely nothing.
Independent. What villainous menace did Flaming Carrot and the Mystery Men face in their earliest appearance in Flaming Carrot Comics number 16 through 17, and how was the menace ultimately defeated?
It was an army of Hitler's boots, and I think they drowned them. Come on, I read them.
Clones of Hitler's feet that menaced the town in Nazi boots adorned with swastikas. They were ultimately defeated when the battle carried over into a dark and rainy night. The rainwater filled their boots, ultimately drowning the feet.
Yes! Come on, you're giving me that, right?
Yes, we're giving you that. He gets the JLA question wrong, the Avengers question wrong, but he scores in the Flaming Carrot.
Oh, you got to read those Bob Burden issues. They're fantastic.
Bob Burden, Jesus.
Only Bob Burden would think of Hitler's boots storming the...
And drowning in the rain.
So 50 cents.
Woo! Pulled it out.
That's not... I thought I was looking at that and going, how the hell is he going to know that?
Yeah. His track record lately, there's no way.
I love Bob Burden. I love Mystery Men. If you haven't seen the movie, go see it. If you haven't, get the book. Dark Horse put out like 4 issues of it, and they need to bring them back because they're so funny.
I'm surprised they haven't.
50 cents. Too funny.
Want to go over some Toy Fair things that I was looking up. Hellboy fans, Series 2 and 3 will be out this year. New Family Guy series, I think they're up to Series 6 now, will be coming out. NECA is going to be making Tenacious D movie figures once that comes out. They're also making Silence of the Lambs figures, and they had a couple head sculpts of Dr. Lecter on display on the one website. Nightmare Before Christmas Series 4 is coming out. Mattel was showing off their Justice League Unlimited lines with 3 new GLs, the next wave of Justice Lords, which includes Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, and the Flash. And what's odd about that is the Flash wasn't in those episodes. He was already dead, but the figure is the costume Reverse Flash. So it's yellow, the whole Reverse Flash thing. Then there's Huntress, Zatanna, Vigilante, Shining Knight, Rocket Red, Ray, Etrigan, the tracksuit type Hawk Girl that she wears, Orion. Those are the 15 new figures. I didn't know who I know Kyle's one of the Green Lanterns and Katma too, but I don't know who the third one is. I couldn't find a name on it. I can't remember. Surprisingly, there was nothing new shown for DC's superheroes lines, the more articulated ones, other than the Batman waves that are already out and the Superman wave that was already shown 1,000 times in different places, which I think it's Doomsday, Superman, I want to say Luthor, and Supergirl, but I could be wrong. I can't remember if it's Luthor or not. Marvel Select for Diamond is coming out with a Cloak and Dagger figure that looks pretty nice later this year. Lego is trying to reinvigorate another property of Batman, bringing it in, which I'm kind of surprised they're doing that after the unsuccessfulness of Art Asylum's Minimate type Batman lines and DC lines. Corgi is continuing their Batman, Batmobile, and related vehicles line, as well as having Marvel hand-painted metal statues, which I just found a few minutes ago. They look pretty good. I'm curious to see what the price point is or how big they are. I couldn't tell a size relation. DC Direct was showing off the next 13-inch figure in their line of the Batman Begins Batman, Superman, Lex Luthor, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, and Two-Face. The next one will be a Batman in a gray and black outfit. The mystery box sets are coming if they're not in stores already. They're the little ones like the Marvel mystery box that you put together to make a little figure. And then in November, DC Direct is going to release reactivated. It's Batman, Joker, I forget the other two, but they look like repaints. Oh, Lobo is one, and I think Superman's a fourth one. But the Batman one you can tell is a Jim Lee figure repaint, but the other ones I can't really tell that they're repainted, but they're reactivated. So I don't know if they were exclusive figures part of a set for the other ones that they're now releasing singularly or not, but you can check that out. Art Asylum has their Star Trek line going through previews in Diamond. The first series is Riker and Worf, which has been solicited and should be coming soon. The second series is being solicited in this month's previews, which is Picard and Troy. And the third series is Geordi and Data. And each one of those has like 2 variants each, so there's like 6 figures for each wave, but just focusing on 2 characters. Diamond Select is also hosting Stargate figures. There's a Serpent Guard, Dr. Jackson, a Jack O'Neill as a general, and a lieutenant, was it, at first? I can't remember what that show started
Never
at.
watched Stargate. I have no idea.
Let's see. There's a company that I saw only once, and I couldn't find it again after I searched it last night, and it was either GC or GG. It might be Gentle Giant. Clash of the Titans figures, or statues. One looked like a figure. I saw articulation in it. And I couldn't find anything more about it or information, so I'll be curious to see what comes.
Bring on the Kraken.
Yeah. I want a big Kraken. Master Replicas is coming out with a new costumes line. I saw Anakin Jedi outfit, Obi-Wan's Jedi outfit, and an X-Men, like the movie outfit. I kind of thought there was a Darth Vader one coming, but they didn't have pictures of that. They're also making a new collector's edition of lightsabers, which a lot of people are up in arms about because they have the limited edition, real fancy lightsabers that are like $400 rather. Right. And this is a lower price point made out of different materials but similar exact detail, and they're supposed to go for like $150 to $200, which that's still kind of pricey. I mean, I want a lightsaber, but $200 for a lightsaber?
It's just a freaking hilt.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything.
It doesn't make any sound. I mean, it's not a freaking lightsaber.
I'd rather get the FX one, which is like $100 to $120 and lights up and makes noises and stuff.
Yeah, and you can bang it around and stuff.
So I'm kind of surprised at that. And they also, for all you Muppet fans out there, are making a replica of the Kermit puppet, but it's not an actual puppet. It's more like an extravagant stuffed animal. I think I don't know what it's made out of. It looks similar. Like they're of course
It's like the real doll.
they're trying to replicate the real puppet. You're just not going to be able to move his mouth and do the whole thing with like that you would with a puppet. That's all I have right now. Just a quick overview. There was some Star Wars stuff, but there's so much out there. The only thing I will touch upon for them is the Vintage Original Trilogy collection is returning, and it's going to be an X-Wing pilot Luke, Greedo, a Biker Scout, Endor Han, and a Tusken Raider, with fancy articulation and cloth clothing and everything. But then there's also a mail-in offer that you collect the UPCs for all them, or I don't know how many, but you can send away for a George Lucas in a Stormtrooper outfit, like a disguise. And it looks like it has interchangeable heads, so you have George Lucas head and you have a Stormtrooper head, which it looks kind of neat. You can look at all of this stuff. I got these.
Doesn't he have enough of our money already?
Well, there's on StarWarsShop.com. There's a George Lucas family because all of his kids were in the last movie, and they made figures of them for a gift pack, and I'm sure they're going to sell.
I guess he has to pay Mr. Fusion somehow. So
Actionfigure.com, Figures.com, SuperheroTimes.com, and RebelScum.com is where I got all of this from. And RebelScum.com is primarily a Star Wars resource, but today they really did a bang-up job of covering all these other lines that I couldn't find anywhere else, mostly because of traffic, I think, on the other websites. We're hosing them up, but Rebel Scum really did a bang-up job of touching upon a lot of other things other than Star Wars. So check those sites out. They're a good resource. And look for more pictures. It's only the second day of Toy Fair, so I'm sure more things are coming. A lot of Palisades fans are waiting to see about what this new company is going to do, and we thought maybe that they would announce something here, but so far nothing. If you ever wanted to know what happened to some of the Palisades guys, Travis Allen, who worked at Palisades, now works for Master Replicas. And if you can find it, there's a nice picture of him holding a Millennium Falcon cardboard cutout and in a Master Replica shirt. So it was nice to see that he's still in the business and doing fine. Cool. So there's your Toy Fair review so far.
All right, before we go, let's sneak in a few voicemails here just because we didn't get to any in the last episode.
Hey, guys. This is Jeremy Winkle, also known as Winkle over at the forums. Just wanted to tell you that I have ordered... Shit, I'm fucking up. I have ordered Marvel Team-Ups for my DCBS order for the books coming out in March, and I think it'll probably be pretty good. You guys haven't steered me wrong yet. Brian, I started getting JSA because you just kept saying it nonstop, and it's one of my favorite books, so hopefully this one will be good, too. All right, I'm going to stop screwing up now. Bye.
Well, good. We hope you like it because we all love it. So.
Excellent book.
And way to score with JSA.
Hey, CGSers, it's Marcus, Jedi Master X on the forums. I just wanted to get a quick comment in on the Infinite Crisis number 4. I just read it. It's great. Let me preface this by telling you I'm a Marvel zombie. The only DC I know is what I read in Hush and what I read from the Jim Lee Superman run, but it was great. I don't know a lot of the characters, and I don't know a lot of what's going on, because I haven't read the miniseries, but just really collecting it for the Jim Lee covers. But it's great. The only stuff I really know is what you guys have told me, and you guys are so informative, you make it more worthwhile. So I'd like to thank you guys, and let you know that I love your show. Keep it up, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Don't base your DC opinion on that Superman run.
But that's cool, though, that he's saying that he appreciates it more because we're able to give him more info.
I appreciate it more because you guys are able to fill me in, so I know exactly how he feels.
I thought that was nice that he was collecting just Infinite Crisis just for the Jim Lee covers.
He's a Jim Lee fan, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
I don't disagree with him.
Just keep listening to us. We'll tell you what to think.
If you want to leave us a voicemail, you can call 206-888-4805. So I think that ends the show for the day. A reminder that we're going to be at the New York Comic Con
a week from when this episode ends.
That's right. So come on down and see us. We'll be spending some of our time at Mike Norton's Artist Alley table. So help Mike and get a sketch from him because he'll have his drawing pad out. So,
and I guess we haven't mentioned this in a while. for those of people who aren't on the forum, we have convention T-shirts that we're only selling through conventions. You can go to our news link on our website, and you scroll down. It's a couple posts down. You'll see a picture of front and back, picture of all 6 of us in the front, and it's a concert-style T-shirt with all the cities that we're going to and the dates. $15, black shirt, white ink on black, and looks cool. So if you want one,
Get to a show.
That's right. And a reminder that our Book of the Month club selection for February is Wanted by Mark Miller and J.G. Jones, and you can pick it up if you want for 40% off at instocktrades.com.
All I'll say about that is I finished it, and I wish they'd play in that universe some more. I liked it.
Shut up, you're not allowed to say. God.
Shut up!
Too bad.
Swaying the listeners.
Too bad. Really? Oh my God.
Sweet.
Sweet.
Oh, don't even get me started.
I caught you this
You're
delicious bass.
You're just jealous because I was online chatting with babes all day. All right. Reminder that this episode was sponsored by DrawerBoxes.com, the ultimate way to store your comic books. That you can find their information on their website at collectiondrawer.com and buy lots of boxes. If you want to leave us an email, it's comicgeekspeak@gmail.com, and check out our website at www.comicgeekspeak.com.
And check out the scavenger hunt details on our contest page.
Yes. And thanks to Mike Oliveri for joining us and giving us the scoop on his upcoming book and his information on shopping from previews. And thanks to UpAllNightGaming.com for hosting our website. Reminder to please vote for us on Podcast Alley. It's comicgeekspeak.com/vote. And a reminder that we are brought to you in conjunction with worldfamouscomics.com, your spot on the internet for the best comic book and entertainment-related columns, contest features, reviews, news, resources, and more. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.